Welcome, Jennifer. أهلا وسهلا.
Thank you. Thank you. مرحبا الساعة.
مرحبا الساعة. Tell me, what do you know in Arabic? I heard you know good Emirati.
Yeah, أرمز أماراتي شوي شوي.
Ah, nice. So what is shway that you know?
Let's see. اجتماع الحين.
Can you introduce yourself in Arabic?
Can I so اسمي Jennifer بس.
Welcome, Jennifer. So what do you do, Jennifer? What is your profession?
Yeah, so currently I am a consultant for a federal government entity here within the energy sector. And my role is within human capital. I'm within the talent management division, and my role focuses within leadership development and executive coaching. So I'm just so passionate about helping others really achieve their purpose in whatever capacity I can.
Amazing. We share a lot. We have a lot of things in common. I spent almost my entire career in HR. And I was also into leadership. I was helping UAE nationals, developing programs for them. And I'm also a life coach. So a lot of things in common between us.
Yes. Twins, I think, huh?
What is your passion, Jennifer?
My passion is really within this space of coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really love this area of helping others when they're not quite clear on where they're going, or they are facing a challenge in some way. I think what brings me the most passion about that is people don't always have someone they can talk to about this. Maybe they're too self-conscious to tell their manager, their friends, their family. And so they need someone confidential that they can explore that space with. And so for me, I feel so honored to hold that space with another person and help them figure it out. I don't tell them what to do. It's not my job to figure it out for them, but it really is my role to help them clarify what's the potential. What do they think they want, and how do they start to take small steps towards reaching that goal for themselves? So I think that's what does it for me. What about you? What's the passion for you?
Well, for me, it's not much different from you. I like helping people, and for me, awareness is always the key. I want people to raise their awareness, to understand what they want. You know, it's very, very important for people to understand where are they heading, because you said something very beautiful. You said, I love helping people to reach their goals, but my passion is even before that. I think we complete each other. My passion is to actually make people find a purpose, understand what is their goal. You know, we live in Dubai. It's a very, very busy kind of a city where you don't have time to breathe. You don't have time to stop and think what I actually want. Life is taking you every day. You're there, and then suddenly you find yourself somewhere where you don't want, and it's you wasted 7, 8, 10 years, and oh, I don't want this career. I don't want this job. I don't like my job. I don't feel I want to go to work, you know, because I don't know what is my goal from the beginning. Even today, I have a lot of people who are working. They don't even know what is their goal, what's their purpose, what they want in life. And I think that is where I get passionate, is help people find that spark, find what is it that makes them keep going.
Yes.
I hear people saying, I feel like giving up. I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know where I'm heading. But once they have a goal, a clear, crystal clear goal, they know exactly what they have to do. It's just a matter of finding the right information, building the right skill, and there we go.
Yes, but I think you really touched on something important there. And that is because of the pace of which we're running at, it's sometimes challenging to pause and reflect.
Mhm.
Or I think there is such scarcity. Here we are coming through this pandemic together. There has been such scarcity in the job market. Or I know we have some fresh grads with us as well, trying to figure that out when you're flooded with possibility. Either you have too many possibilities or there's not enough. And so trying to narrow in and create that vision for yourself can be really, really hard to step into. So I definitely, that being able to be still and reflect and figure it out, I think that's the space that so many people find hard. And that's where sometimes instead of being empowered, we can fall almost into this victim mindset where at some stage we're forced into a decision that doesn't feel honest for us or authentic for us. And then it's like, we don't want to be accountable. And so then the pathway to get back to that, instead of blaming others or being this victim or having things happen to us, is to step more consciously into that. And instead of things happening to us, making sure that things happen because of us.
I think people, they forget a very crucial fact here, that they have a choice.
Yes.
And when they give that choice away is where they feel lost. They feel victimized. I'm a victim here, right? And they completely forget that they, even today, they still have a choice. They still have a freedom to choose whether they want to think like a victim or they want to, as you said, they want to feel empowered. They want to feel, oh, I can do this. It's never too late, you
It's
know?
never too late.
Yes.
Correct.
And there's so many examples on it's never too late. People started new different career in their 50s and their 60s and they succeed. So it's about a choice and people forgetting that they have a choice.
Yes, part of one of my previous roles was as a career manager and coaching um, graduate students and executive students who were making career transitions, to your point. And I worked with anyone from 20 to, actually, our youngest student was 18 years old. Mashallah, he was earning his MBA, up to people in their 50s. Making a career transition. And so much of what was driving that career transition was people went into careers, their first careers,
Mhm.
because it was a family expectation to do a certain job, say be a doctor or an engineer, or many of the roles that are very popular here, but that wasn't satisfying for them. They were more interested in other areas, say around business analytics or something that was more driven intrinsically from within, not because it was an expectation. But figuring out how to do that. If they wanted to do marketing, how do you become unapologetic? And to your point, it begins with creating a vision for yourself, but then understanding where are you compared to that goal today?
Mhm.
And then really soliciting feedback around you. What are your strengths? How are you going to get there? Because there will be hardships that come along the way to, I mean, you've seen this, I'm sure, working with others. And even within ourselves, we've all experienced hardship. But to keep us from that victim mentality and being empowered, it's about we need a community to help us get there. Achievement is often collective.
Yes, 100%. Community is something that um, first it changes the energy around us, helping us change our mindset and helping us have a clearer vision for ourselves. I remember I had a young girl who was studying in the college. So because I used to manage a lot of UAE nationals, she came to me asking for to leave early in certain days. Then I was shocked because I know the programs that the university offers for evening students, and for her it was something odd. It was something I never seen before, not in business at least. So I asked her, "What are you studying?" I used to work in a bank, so she used to work in a bank with us, and I asked her, "What are you studying?" And she is studying um, medical machinery. I was like, "So what are you doing in bank?"
Precisely. And
So decide, where do you want? You're wasting your time working in a bank. I understand that she had, at that young age, all what you think about is being independent and having that extra 1,000 dirhams in your pocket, depending on yourself. Um, but that shouldn't be the way that decides my career. Like, I don't know where is she today, honestly, but the advice that I give her is you have to choose. You either want to be in medical industry or in banking. If you love banking, then it's still early, you have time. Go and change your career. Go and change what you're studying. Study business if you don't like what you're studying, because as you said, a lot of expectation is built from the society, from the family, from people around us, that makes us go and study something that we're not passionate about. We just study it because my father wants me to be an engineer or a doctor or whatever. But my passion is completely something else. Um, and for her, she was completely wasting her time uh, doing this and that at the same time. She wasn't focused at her university, and she wasn't 100% there for her banking career to build. And I think that the biggest backdraw here is we're trying to satisfy everyone else,
exactly.
but not satisfying ourselves. Um, we can work things around. I know sometimes um, it's not reasonable, maybe, we think it's not reasonable, or our parents think it's not reasonable. For example, careers like art, music, um, like these kind of careers are not very supportive by family, right? Where people are loving this kind of careers, they feel like, I want to do this, but I also have to satisfy my family. What should I do? What do you think they should do in this case?
Yeah, this is where I think it gets really tricky for people, because there is an aspect of honoring the family, right? But I think beyond that, that you have to look at, it's a trade-off. It's a cost versus
Used to
benefit.
be my professor.
Because ultimately what happens there is, at some stage, it's going to impact performance. If you are not really engaged in this, it's going to impact your performance somewhere along your trajectory or your path. And what you're going to see is others around you being promoted instead. And instead, you're going to have envy. You're going to feel threatened by them. You're going to wonder, why not me? And at that stage, it's going to be a real wake-up call. And it was Viktor Frankl that said this quote: when we are no longer able to change our situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And so this comes to mind for me here, because there are times where we can't change our situation. This is a family expectation, what we can always look at is in that, what are the skills that we have, if it's engineering, that are translatable to other fields, right? Is there opportunity for me to be motivated enough to work up to a manager level? Because having coached many, many leaders up through executives, your technical skills may get you to a certain level, but then your leadership competencies will keep you in the game. That will keep you elevating in your career. So that can be for you, and not so much about your technical skills if you're not loving the technical piece, but that was a family or community expectation. So there are other ways to help keep you engaged and motivated, but understand what are the risks and what are the trade-offs, and how do you stay true to you, because somewhere along the way you're going to have to be true to you.
That's interesting. Changing yourself. You can change yourself, but you cannot change your situation. There is a tool that I always love to use. It's called the Circle of Influence by
Yes.
Covey.
Yes.
It's such an amazing tool because it will help you change your focus from all the things that are outside your control to things that you have control over.
So Masood, will you explain what this is and the different dimensions?
So basically what Stephen Covey is saying is there are certain things that you have a direct influence on it, like your actions, your thoughts, things that you can change with your hands, and there are things that outside your control, outside your influence area, like people opinion, traffic, for example, how your boss think, for example, just throwing ideas. These are things that I cannot control. For example, the structure of the organization. This is something that I don't have a direct influence on. But if I have a limited energy. Each individual has a limited energy. And we just said you have a choice. So choosing to spend that energy that I have, being thinking, blaming, living on that victim mentality or whatever, or I decide, oh no, let me focus on things that I can directly influence and change instead. That will change my career, will change my future, will change my situation, right? I cannot change the situation, but if I change myself, the next situation will be different, right?
Exactly.
Maybe this situation I don't have an influence on, but if I understood what are my weaknesses, what are my strengths, where I want to go, then I will find myself in a different situation in near future.
Exactly.
There is a say, let me remember it. It's like when you say, if I'm repeating the same action, I cannot expect different results. If I'm doing the same thing, thinking the same way, definitely the results will be the same. I cannot do the same sort of things and expect different results.
Yes.
That will be the way he put it was foolish, right? So for me to change the outcome, I have to change what goes into or I have to change the ingredients first to get a different outcome, right?
Precisely. And that means changing your actions, which if you go deeper than that, means changing your thinking, right? Changing the thoughts that even come into your mind. So there's so much behind that. I love someone just said definition of insanity. Absolutely. It is. There's a saying, what you allow is what will continue. So you have to interrupt that in order to create change. And within that circle of influence, there's the smallest part of it's three different circles. There's what we can control, what can we influence, and what's out of our control.
Mm-hmm.
And what's in our control is so, so small. And oftentimes when I'm coaching leaders, I have them write in a diagram what's in their control, because oftentimes they want to change their employees. We can't do that. I don't have a magic wand. That would be phenomenal if I would change so many people in this life if I could. And that's not the way it works. What I can control is my reaction, right? What I can control is how I show up, how much I let it bother me, how I can regulate myself with my emotions. And that's a choice. And what I can do is influence. It's the same thing. I can't control whether or not a recruiter would hire me. For those who are on the call that are the job seekers, what I can do is I can influence, right? I can show up and give the best interview, but I can try to influence that recruiter who is interviewing me. I can do all the things of researching that company to come across as the most effective candidate. But ultimately, that decision is not within my hands. And what's out of my control is if they don't have the hiring budgets, or the position is put on hold, or if a pandemic comes and everything is put on hold and they're not doing hiring anymore.
Exactly. And people ignore the fact that our inner thoughts are so crucial to the results that we're getting.
Say more about that.
I call it mindset. Mindset is the way I think, right? So if I'm thinking, for example, I'm thinking negatively about myself, I don't feel that I deserve certain positions. I don't feel like I can become a good manager, for example. These are my thought patterns. And so my body responds to that. Even if I have all the skills, immediately I'll make mistakes. I will feel uncomfortable in situations, because that's my body reflection on my thoughts. But if I can, like what you rightly said, interrupt that thought pattern and bring more awareness into it. What is it that I'm thinking about? What is it that I'm building in my mind? Because what you think about a lot becomes a mind habit, and it becomes your mindset, and it becomes automatic. It becomes something that your mind will pick automatically. The more you think that you're a loser, you can't find a job, you can't be a good manager, the more your mind will automatically be programmed on that. Um, and that's very dangerous, because from there on, if I didn't bring more awareness and start changing that, I will only go down. I'm not going up anymore. I'm not growing.
So, yes, the thing there is, so many people have this inner critic inside, right? I'm not good enough. I didn't do this right. Oh, I'm never going to get this job. I'm never going to get the promotion. Oh, I can't show up effectively in the meetings and influence these executives, whatever it is. And I would say that is probably the biggest theme or pattern that I see in the coaching work I do, in particular with leaders. And it's almost this shameful secret that people are hiding, because it's not safe to we don't show that publicly. We don't want others to judge. We are judging ourselves harsh enough. We don't want others to see that. But to your point, the talk we do with ourselves is so powerful. And I'm going to go back to what we said in the beginning. We are moving so quickly, we don't often have the time to stop and reflect. Because when we do, and we're doing this coaching work, that's when we can really say, oh my gosh, there's this negative self-talk in my head. I need to, I would never talk to somebody else that way. Why am I allowing this with myself? And we can really get clear on what are those voices to then interrupt that habit and change the dialogue.
I remembered something about this. Emotions are energy, right? And what builds the emotions are our thoughts. So if I'm thinking negatively, what I'm doing is um, flaming up a lot of negative emotions, guilt, regret, failure, um, self-pity. These are all negative energy. And if I'm surrounding myself with a negative energy, what happens? The other person can feel that negative energy. It's transformative. And
Yes.
although I will try so hard and it will take me double effort not to show people what I'm thinking about, but they will feel it. It might show on my body language. Um, it's different when someone sits just like this in an interview or something, or someone is sitting like this. Um, that's energy affecting our tone when we talk about something. If we have that negative energy with us, we won't be able to give 100%. And that's where we have to slow down, look at our thoughts, and start action. And that action is actually changing the thought. You cannot control your thoughts. That's something very difficult to control your thoughts. But it's very possible to be aware of your thoughts. You know, if you put that monitor on and you're aware what kind of thoughts are going into my mind, then okay, this is delete. I want to change this thought. It will take time. You cannot do it immediately, but with time, we can completely change our mindset. And I think mindset is what differentiating successful people from failure people, people who cannot grow just because of their mindset.
That's it. There's actually something called the growth mindset. This book by Carol Dweck
Mm-hmm.
called Mindset, phenomenal. And the difference there is there's something called a fixed mindset versus the growth mindset,
Yeah.
right? And here, if we go a bit deeper on that, if I have a fixed mindset, it might be I'm trying to look smart, which oftentimes in the business world, people that again, we're all trying to put on this facade, or we're trying to not let our real thoughts catch us. But it means that our thinking is fixed. I'm not open to other ways of thinking, or I think the way I am is the way I'm always going to be. And here I might avoid challenges. Maybe I give up easy. And again, we've talked about we're always going to face problems and setbacks in life. But if I have a fixed mindset, I'm not even going to keep trying. I just will give up. I might ignore helpful feedback or even critical feedback that might ultimately help me longer term. It could be why I'm not being promoted, why I'm not getting a job if I'm interviewing. And when I do see others being successful, I take that as a threat that because I'm insecure.
Mm-hmm.
Versus if I have the growth mindset, here I have a desire to learn. I'm curious versus just saying, that's not my problem. This is how I am.
Mm-hmm.
And here I'm embracing new challenges. So whenever I face a setback, I just say, okay, I've had success overcoming challenges before. What worked for me last time?
Mm-hmm.
What were my strengths about that? So again, that curiosity, I'm persistent. I believe in myself. I know that I've had a track record of success. It may not have been the same exact thing, but I've been successful in this area. I look at my effort as a way to becoming a master at something. So for example, if we think about my Arabic, yes, it is shway shway. I was so afraid to speak Arabic in the beginning because it meant I wasn't perfect. That could have stopped me, right? Because it's so scary to mess up, to have people maybe laugh. I can't pronounce some of the vowels in the back of my throat.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually by practice through effort, I can get to more mastery. Now my accent, alhamdulillah, is so much better. So that's the pathway to mastery. That's a growth mindset.
Mhm.
Learning from criticism and trusting that it's there to serve you well, that feedback is needed on the pathway to expertise and elevation. And then seeing others' success, their success stories as inspiration rather than a threat. All of those are signs that you are showing the growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And so I would encourage everyone just really to reflect for a moment about where are you on that spectrum of fixed versus growth. But that is a huge determinant of your ability to be successful, especially despite these setbacks and being resilient in the long run.
That's
Well, what else
very
would you add to that?
that's very interesting. Um, just a question. Um, does that mean, because I get this question a lot, does that mean if I have a fixed mindset, this is the way I am and I cannot change that?
No, it means you think it's the way you are.
Mm,
So again, going back to the circle of influence, right? It's really about helping to shift your thinking around that. But none of us are fixed. But what that can do is mean you fall into the victim mentality more because you think it's the way I am. It's everyone else's fault.
mhm,
I was born like this. This is just the way it is.
mhm,
If you can't shift out of that and see the other pathway of things happen because of me, I keep trying. I keep going around these barriers. I keep picking myself back up. I listen to the feedback. I'm inspired by others. Things happen because of me. That's the way to empowerment.
mhm.
Otherwise, we're going to keep being in a fixed mindset, and with that comes victim thinking.
Nice. Can you give us few tips for people who are in the fixed mindset? How they can start? What is what is the first thing that they have to do to start moving from fixed mindset to growth mindset?
Yeah, I think you nailed this one earlier when we were talking about that self-awareness piece.
Mhm,
Right? It comes even before having have a goal, but before we can even have that as a goal, we have to be aware that we're in fixed mindset. Usually people who are in a fixed mindset don't know they have a fixed mindset.
yes.
And so I would say if somebody is coming and they are giving you that feedback, if maybe you've been overlooked for promotions, if maybe you've been overlooked for jobs, um, really start to question what's behind that. And I'm not suggesting here that you start to be a critic about yourself,
Mhm,
right? There's a difference there. It, but really starting to get more curious and self-reflect. Use that time to figure out where have there been patterns in your life. Is it about you trying to look smart and put on appearances? What's at the core when you start to peel this stuff back? And what is, if you were to pick a scale of 1 to 10, 1 is very low,
mhm,
10 is absolutely. What's your desire to continue to learn versus you feel like you know it all? Because oftentimes in a fixed mindset, we feel like we know it all. There's nothing else anyone can teach us.
mhm,
So I would say if you were on the lower end of that spectrum, like a 1 through 3, you're
mhm.
probably fixed mindset of that curiosity and that drive isn't there for you. And that might be a good indicator for a tip to say, I'm operating in the fixed mindset. Yeah.
Oh, that's
What else would you add?
well. Um, the awareness is definitely the key. Uh, for me, I'm very passionate when it comes to people awareness about themselves. Um, I would add something um, that people often don't really think about it. Um, living in fixed mindset and in victim mentality often keeps us in a dark place, and in a lot of times it's difficult for us to overcome it alone.
Yes.
So if you get to know that you're not growing, you need help, please ask help. Ask people to help you. Being close people to you friends, family, colleagues, professionals. If you need to see professionals, go and see professionals, but seek help if you
Yeah.
cannot do it yourself. And people have different capabilities. Some people can do it by themselves. They have the willingness and the power to go and do it by themselves. And some people, they feel like, no, I can't do this alone. Uh, and they're afraid. And in some cultures, they feel ashamed to go and ask because this area is considered a very sensitive area. No, these what people will think about me if I ask for help, you know, and this is sabotaging myself by doing this. Uh, if you need help, please go, please ask. Um, if you don't trust, for example, people close to you, professional maybe, someone who can really help you to overcome your challenges.
I love that. And what I would add there is, yes, asking for help. First, figure out your why, right? What's your motivation? What's your incentive? What's your goal? And then maybe reflect on the type of help you're looking for if you feel you can't do it alone. Because help can come in different forms. To your point, a family member, a friend, a colleague, a professional. It could also mean you're looking for a mentor. Maybe you're not clear on the skill that it takes, where a mentor would be the right person. Maybe it's you're not sure how to get started or where to begin. And that's where a coach or somebody in that area can help. Maybe it's you need help shifting your thinking because you feel it's so negative all the time. That could even run the range to a mental health professional, depending, or life coach. So it really ranges what you're looking for. If you're not great at doing presentations or the interview piece, or your CV doesn't look good, that's going to be another area. So it just really be considerate in thinking about what explicitly is the type of help you're looking for, because it may not be one size fits all.
100%. 100%. Sometimes we only need people who have a different perspective.
Yeah.
Because throughout our experiences, throughout our life, we are looking at life from one perspective. This is how I see life. Now, sometimes a small help from another person who looks at things from a different perspective. I'm looking at it from this angle. They're looking at it from maybe this angle over here. It looks different and it means something different to them. And maybe that will also help me. It's a small help, but it will help me looking at things in different ways. And then I can decide where is it that I'm going, why I'm doing this, what I want, and what exactly type of, like what you said, type of help that I want. And go and ask for that precisely.
Yes, absolutely. The other thing I'll throw in here as well is, again, I think we all have been, what I have observed in the work that I've been doing is people are really hitting what I'll say is the threshold, their tolerance for stress these days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because of the pandemic, because of the work that we're doing, because of the pace that we're going, especially here in Dubai, it's nonstop. And just, I think we hold in an extra level of stress here as well.
Yeah.
And I think to really hit this peak performance and really continue to be empowered and have the right mindset, it's important to talk through levels of stress.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a stress curve where we actually want to be in the zone. And if we don't have enough stress, which, believe it or not, there actually is such a thing as not enough stress, we feel bored. It's like we're bored. We're not stimulated enough. This is where people can start causing more gossip in the workplace because they're not feeling engaged enough on their own. They're not given big enough challenges.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not enough stress.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have on the other end of the spectrum too much stress, which is distress. And that's where people start to hit burnout.
Mm-hmm.
I have just observed in general, friends, family, colleagues, friends within the coaching space, especially through the pandemic and at this stage, people are just starting to hit different levels of distress.
Yeah.
And so it becomes about being in the middle, not too little stress, but not distress. And being in, having enough stress on us actually helps us hit our peak levels of performance and engagement, to have a challenge, but not feel like we're going to fail. It gets us in our flow and it lets us really see what's our full potential. So keeping that in mind as well when we think about mindset and empowerment and what we need to really deliver what we're capable of.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, I was interviewing a very beautiful lady, and the topic was burnout. And we had this debate because I mentioned exactly what you mentioned. I mentioned that a little of stress is good for good performance. If you want to perform good, you need a little of
Yes.
stress, just enough to push you and keep going. And she was like, no, but you don't call that stress. I said, yes, you call it a stress. It's a little stress that just push you and keeps you going.
Exactly.
I'll go back to your stress curve, and I have read something very interesting the other day in a book called Supernatural.
Oh, yes.
And Dr. Joe Dispenza is the writer of the book. What he was saying, he was explaining what happens to your body when you go through a high level of stress. Well, eventually, the body will go into fight or flight mode, and that mood switches on um, um, a lot of areas in our body where it's not switched on normally, and switches off other areas. For example, your heart rate will jump very high. Your immune system will be temporarily shut off because your body wants more blood and more adrenaline just to keep you going. Um, and that was basically in the beginning when we face life-threatening danger. But
Yeah.
what happens when we evolve, our mind is starting seeing a lot of things as life-threatening danger. And with higher level of stress, we reach to that level and we switch on the fight and flight mode. So over a long, he was talking about a story of a lady who was living in high stress for a very long time. Over the time, her immune system started to actually um, attack her body organs. And she actually was paralyzed completely because the immune system attacked the back nerve on her back. And in a couple of years, she got cancer just because of high stress. And then he mentioned one day she decided, I don't want this anymore. I want to change. It was one decision that she made. She wanted to change her life, turn her life around, and she started the journey. 5 years from that day, she was cured from cancer and she started walking in again.
Subhanallah.
See how powerful are your thoughts and mindset on your physical body. So living in a stress, going back to stress, we have to understand when is enough level of stress for us, because that also goes back to awareness. When we know that we are on end of that curve, higher spectrum of that curve, then we have to do something about it.
Exactly. And so much when I am coaching someone and they are being triggered, they are carrying so much stress, and small things make them feel like they're having a heart attack. To your point, that's flooding your system with cortisone, right? And that's the actual hormone that's hitting your body. And the part of your brain, I'm going to get a little bit nerdy here, is the amygdala, and it takes over.
Yeah.
You can't think clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of it is whether you're nervous for a job interview, whether you feel the way someone is talking to you shuts you down and you get afraid. There, the work to do is to observe where in your body do you start to feel it, because we will have a physical reaction before we have an outward reaction.
Yes.
And so it's about sensing where in your body you feel it first. I've had some people tell me their legs go numb. Others will feel it. They will start to get tension in their back.
Yeah.
And so all of these are signs that we need to really start to regulate our breathing and show up a bit differently to, again, keep that resilience there, because we're all going to face times where we can't help but have too much stress in life.
Yes.
It becomes about how do we then take care of ourselves and help get back into the peak performance zone? How do we manage through when life gets too stressful? And there are things like regulating your breathing, being able to take small breaks, but it all goes back to that self-awareness and recognizing what's there within ourselves.
Yeah.
The last thing we want is to be within distress too long and for it to have a health impact. And again, start falling into that victim mode when there is something that is within our circle of control that we can do about it to start to overcome that.
Yeah. I want to talk more about when you said focusing on regulating your breath.
Yeah.
What is your understanding about that? How can that help us?
So what's happening during when we get triggered, our nervous system is getting out of alignment. And so the science and the research tells us from a neuroscience perspective, deep breathing is one of the quickest and easiest ways to regulate our nervous system, meaning it's putting our the brakes in the fire back, and it's restoring our system. And so by breathing, we're bringing our heartbeat. You had talked about how the heartbeat starts beating too fast. Our mind getting triggered. Our body starts holding things. When we're taking these slow, deep breaths, and actually if even you have a smart watch and it does the breathing for you, you will notice it's set to 5, it defaults to 5 breaths in a minute. That's backed by science as well. And so it's as simple as that, 5 deep breaths in a minute. And that's what I will recommend for people I'm coaching. If they notice they're getting triggered in a meeting, go to the bathroom and take these 5 deep breaths in a minute. Also praying. Praying 5 times a day is so powerful, because again, it's a moment to pause, reflect, take that time out and stay focused. Again, regulates the nervous system. Taking a walk. There are very small things that you can do that can help restore safety to your nervous system. And these are just simple techniques that you're doing to try to distract your body and let you know that you're safe.
I'm getting a little nerdy now.
Yes, please. I love nerdy.
I just gonna add a little bit from a different perspective now on breathing. Normally our brains, they're either in the past or in the future. They're not at the present moment. We're either thinking about what we are going to do next, today, tomorrow, day after, or something that happened earlier and we're thinking about it. And what happens is we forget to actually focus on this moment that we're living in. And over the time, our body or our brain gets programmed automatically and thinks that is normal to think either about future or the past. And sometimes when you're sitting and not doing anything, you feel frustrated, right? When you're on a queue, and especially when your mobile doesn't have charge, right? When your mobile doesn't have charge, you go like, I need a charger. I don't know what to do, and you cannot focus on this moment. So what breathing will do will ensure that you focus on this particular moment, because breathing is the only thing, breathing and the heartbeat are the only things that is going regularly and happening always, sometimes without us feeling it, right? So when we focus on that breathing, we're not in the past, we're not in the future, we are in this moment. So we break that mental pattern of thinking about past and future, and we stay in this moment. And the more we do that, the more we train our brain to stay in the current moment and focus on it. And that will help us. Sometimes we don't even enjoy simple moments. Food, just an example. I love food. Right? And especially now, we often eat and we don't even know what we are eating. We are on the phone, we are on the TV, we talk, and we don't even know, what did I eat? I don't know. It was a little salty, you know. A little ice cream. For me, that small ice cream, I enjoy it. I take my time, and I enjoy that moment with my ice cream. Is the same moment that I enjoy with my children. And that's the beauty of focusing on your breathing and living in the current moment, instead of just being overwhelmed with thoughts that are not helping us. Thinking about past is not going to change what happened in the past, and thinking about future will not bring future today. We have to wait until tomorrow for that future to come.
Yeah, I think that is, I absolutely agree, but that is so hard to do often.
Yes.
So hard to do often. But eating ice cream is really easy.
It's so hard to do if you're not aware of. If you are aware of, you start adding practices in your daily life where you can actually train yourself on it.
Yeah.
Simple things. It could be, you rightly said, praying 5 times a day. A lot of times we pray and our mind is not there. Our mind is wondering what we are doing, and everything else but praying.
Yes.
And we finished? Yes, we finished. Okay, alhamdulillah. We finished. We prayed. We don't even know what we said, Living that moment of praying and focusing on that moment will put us in a different zone. Even physically, if you are not thinking about anything, you are in the space where you don't think about anything, your body releases a hormone. I forgot the hormone name, but they call it the happiness hormone, where it regulates your.
Serotonin.
What's that?
Serotonin?
Serotonin, maybe serotonin, yes. Yeah. I know there are 3 or 5 hormones that they call them happiness hormones, but I don't know what is what. Yeah. Yeah. So that's simply about praying. Even myself, I get distracted a lot. Sometimes I try to focus. So getting things into daily habits, meditation in the morning, if you have time, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes meditation. Eating mindfully will help. Praying mindfully, focusing on when you pray. Even sometimes when you have a conversation, we often have conversation with people and we think somewhere else. Our mind is somewhere else. We don't get connected with the other person, especially at workplace. We don't get connected to, we're thinking about what's my next task, what I want to do. I have this email that I have to send, you know, and we don't get engaged in that conversation mindfully.
True.
So if you enter these into your life, it will become easier and easier by time. You just need practice.
Yes, and I think you said it the best earlier. It goes back to habits. Right? We have to create these habits for ourselves. Yeah.
Mental habits and physical habits. People only, when you talk about habits, they only talk about the doing habits, something that you do. And they ignore the fact that mental habits are even more dangerous and even more beneficial for us if we learn them. Awesome. We're almost done. We have 3 minutes to go. I will open the floor for people if they have questions, if they have anything they want to add, please shoot. Let me start.